He rightly concluded that if you really want to change football, you have to start at the source. The trainers who train young people, who train young players, who train the kids. Together with Frans Masson, they came to the conclusion that our football was outdated. The successes we had achieved in the 80s and the 90s were based on a good organization, and were based on defensive football and the Belgian mentality of wanting to work hard. During the World Cup in France in 1989 and Euro 2000, these were still our values, which of our players were able to make the difference individually, and at that time, only Marc de Grace, Luc Niels, Enzo Schiffel. That were our creative players surrounded by workers. Did you see the Netherlands with all those talented players? France in 2000, they become world champion in 1989 and European champion in 2000. The difference with us Belgians was shocking. You see here, we played against Holland. We played with 5 defenders. We played in a 5-3-2. We played 0-0. We cherished the result. It felt like a victory, but we forgot to look over it. Also, the Euro 2000, the same. Like I said, there was a revolution in Belgian football. France 89 and Euro 2000 was a big disaster. So we had to look forward. And my colleague Frans will tell you about the rest. Okay, Frans.
Okay. Salam alaikum. Just a small introduction. My name is Frans Meeuwens, and I'm a lecturer for the Belgian Federation, and I'm also the coordinator of the Belgian youth teams. So, we were happy in 1998 because we played, as Guy said, 0-0 against Holland. It was a great result for us. And that result opened our eyes. It wasn't that good. We expected more. And as our senior manager in the picture says, if you really want to change football, you have to start at the source, back to the roots, back to the basics. And the basics are all our smaller teams, our smaller clubs in Belgium. We have about 400,000 football players. If you compare it, for example, to Holland, they have got about 1,200,000 football players. That's a large difference. So they have an easier way to develop talents. And that's what it's all about. Develop a talented player, a top player. And we have top players in our youth teams, but also with our Red Devils. How do we create a top player? Well, we took from our neighboring countries the best of both worlds. And let's start with the Dutch. They organized small-sided games where the children, the kids, could play 2 against 2, 3 versus 3, 5 versus 5, and so on. The Dutch football stands for creativity. So they have players who make the difference. They also had players that we call a number 10, the man with the vista, with the game inside, and we lacked that too. And the Dutch wanted to do especially 1 versus 1. 1 versus 1 is the thing that happens most in football, in a football game. Then the second world was the French world. They organize Centre de Formation, stands for the talented players came together and they were made even better there. One of their items is also repeating. When you repeat things, finally, each player gets what you want to achieve. They have analytic exercises, meaning very technical exercises, and they focus on the individual. Okay, so we took the things of both worlds. We focused on 1 versus 1, creativity, that's what we lacked, and small-sided games. So large, not so large numbers on the pitch. But football is a game of making decisions, making the right decision. And that's why we focus on that one. We reformed for the first time the youth competition. The under 6 till the under 9 played 5 versus 5. The under 10 to the under 13 played 8 versus 8 pitches, of course. And then we got from the age of under 14 till under 21, we played 11 versus 11. Those were the changes of the game formats. What was important for us? Well, it is important to know that the age, well, it's according to the age that you make a pitch larger or smaller. That's very important because it's the, sorry, I'm missing the word.
When we play 2 against 2 and with children of 6, 7 years old, or 5 against 5 with children of 7, 8 years old, and the pitch is very small, then it's more, then they come more often to the ball, and they can explore much better.
That was what I was looking for. So the space is limited. When there is a limited space, you have players that have to learn to react in a small area. That's important. And so the space is important, and you have to link it to the age. An under 9 player will never be able to play on the pitch of an under 14 player. So we made a choice. We made a choice together with 2 things. Fun and formation are very important. And as you read, I also added a quote of a very famous player, that's Johan Cruyff, number 14, the number 14. Football has to be fun for kids, otherwise it doesn't make sense. And it should be exciting and never be a worry. So it's very important that children have fun. And those 2 things, fun and formation, are equally important. But when you have fun, you learn. And things that are fun are done more easily by kids. Scoring is important. There is a difference, for example, between winning 7-6 than winning 1-0, 1-0. We prefer 7-6 because it's more attractive and children have more fun. Playing, well, the word says it itself. It must be a game. It must be playful. It must be fun. And winning is also important because we want to create a winning mindset. It's important that you learn And you also learn when you lose a game. Perhaps you learn more than when you win a game. And then fun, what is fun for children? When they always want to play a match, a game. And that's why we said when we use the methods at the other side, at the formation, we're going to introduce a lot of games so that they get in a realistic situation. They play games in the weekend. Well, when we train them, when we educate them, when we learn them things, let's do those things in a game.
So, Frans, it's also reality-based learning. Things that you learn on training when you're playing games, you learn it and you put it into the game in the weekends.
Yes, that's reality-based learning. So we also created a learning plan. What do those children at a certain age have to learn? And we linked it to their characteristics. For example, a very young player, under 6, under 7, just wants to play. He can't concentrate for a long time. So don't make, for example, a training or exercises or a game that lasts longer than, for example, 20 minutes, because they can't concentrate this long. So we linked the learning plan to the age characteristics. And then we got some basics. Basics are things that children have to be able to learn at a certain age. Well, from the age from 7 till 13, we call it the golden age, because children want to learn. They want to become better. And it's the ideal age also because of their physical develop, their body develop. So in that way, we put all the basics, the competences, we put them at that age. You have a look at the slide and you see what those things are. So B plus means that you're in possession of ball. B min means that you're in lack of ball. And then we have the both transitions. In that way, we learn the basics, but basics are always related to our team tactics. And the older the girls or the boys get, the older the players get, the more important the team tactics become. You have to function as an individual in a team. That's important. So when you're playing 11 against 11, it is more important to be able to perform the team tactics than when you're playing as an under 6 player. So these are the game moments you see. The moments within the game are ball possession, loss of ball, lack of ball, and the switch over moments. Transition moments, yes.
And then we have also the set pieces in both of the ball possession or loss of the ball.
These are the team tactics. So as you see, control of the build-up zone and infiltration in the truth zone. In team tactic, ball possession, in loss of ball, and then both transition actions.
Okay, we also, in our coach education, it was also important that our training is organized street soccer. So what do we mean with it? That we learn the game through games, to playing games. You cannot teach faster than the kids can learn. When does the teaching stop and the learning starts? That's the question that we have to ask us. Players take ownership of the game. Learning is a permanent change in behavior. And when all the things that we learn on the training, we put it into the game. So small-sided games pose problems for kids to solve them. Why? Because when you are in a small-sided games, you are a lot of times that you are in possession of the ball. You have to make decisions and so on. So you have to take those solutions to the next game and learn new ones. You make mistakes, but you learn from your mistakes and you go on. That's why we want to put organized street soccer in our training. Okay, Frans.
Okay. So it's very important as when you're a trainer in the organized street soccer, it's important. It's also important that you don't always interrupt the game. As Guy told you, let the players make mistakes and let them learn from it. That's important. Then we get the position games. For the position games, it's important that you know where you have to stand. It's also important that you can make triangles on the pitch. So be available when you are in ball possession. That's important there in position games. Also small-sided position games. Okay. And then we created a development model. A development model where that we said, okay, in this way of playing, we are going to improve best. Of course, this is a story of a few years and not a short term.
Yes, we are still in 2001, 2002, when we are creating our vision and so on, and then we start to grow.
Okay. Then, as was said in the beginning, we want to create top players. But in what way do we or can we create top players? Well, first of all, we put education and training together. School and football in one drop. So sports schools, we created sports schools. Well, in the sports schools, not everybody was welcome, but we selected players. So they had to take some trials, some tests to be selected. The better players, the more talented players, so came to the sports schools. Each day, they have training sessions at school, but in the evening, they also go to their training session at a club. And we organize sports schools from the age of 13 till 18. Okay, and which players do we get? Well, for example, we have a sport at Racing Genk. Racing Genk is one of the better teams in Belgium, and as you see in the picture, you see Kevin De Bruyne and you see Thibaut Courtois. They went to the sports school of Genk. Okay, how do we create top players? Well, first of all, the sports schools, education and football together, but also with a certain vision for our national youth teams. We want to play in a specific way. No longer the defensive playing, as you saw it in the one of the first slides in 5-3-1, 5-4-1, but in a 1-4-3-3. And what are the advances of this way of playing? According to us, you create a defensive player at the back who can be engaged by ball possession. You could also create a number 10. A number 10 is the one with the game insight. We also want to create offensive players to take action when there is in a situation 1 versus 1. So we have the wingers, our what we call the numbers we call 11 and 7, the both wingers, left wing and right wingers. They always come in a situation of 1 versus 1. So we have to make them stronger in that way of acting. In the midfield, we only want one defensive thinking player. Why? Because we want to regain the ball as high as possible on the pitch. So when we have 3 strikers and 2 offensive midfield players, we have 5 players that are, well, on the half of the opponent's pitch. And when the last advance is that we can make triangles all over the pitch.
When we go back to France and to Holland, that's all the things we said before. So now we are going to put this into our vision. We want to create it, Eden Hazard. We want to create Dries Mertens, Kevin De Bruyne's, Vincent Kompany, who's infiltrating. Our aim was to have 100% ball possession. That's not possible, but our aim was to have 100% ball possession.
Yes, so we don't any longer want to be the defensive thinking Belgian team. We want to be an offensive team. So we had sports schools. We had our vision about in what kind of position we were going to play, 4-3-3, and then it is important that we looked over it. There is a difference between a high performer and a high potential. And I'm going to explain you the difference between those two. A high performer is somebody who performs at the moment and who is bigger, larger, physically stronger, and well, it's important that we can see through it because there are not only high performers, they act at the moment, best at the moment, there are also high potentials. And high potentials, you're going to see an example in a moment. There is a difference between the early mature, that's the high performer. When you look at the picture, you probably see the high performer and you also see the high potential. A high potential is the player that is becoming perhaps is becoming better than the high performer who is performing better at the moment. I'm going to give you an example out of athletics. I presume you all know Asafa Powell. Asafa Powell was a sprinter, the 100 meters. And when he came to the trials in Jamaica, he was a little boy. And he had no trainer. He was late mature. And his time was the worst. Then he got a trainer. He became better. And as you all know, Asafa Powell later became the world record holder of the 100 meters. But at the moment when he went to those trials, he wasn't the best. Not at all. He was the worst. So it's important to make a difference between high performers and high potentials. And because we saw the difference in a game, we organized national future teams, and future teams were, for us, the late mature players. So when they came together, we could see which player had high potentials. When we put them together with the high performers, we couldn't see that. So we made the difference between high performers and high potentials. In this picture, you see two late mature players. Let me start with the left one. The left one is, as you see in the picture next, Napoli's record scorer in Italy. It's Dries Mertens. Well, he started in a big team in Belgium, Anderlecht, but he was not a high performer. He was late mature and he was sent away. He went to a second division club, Eendracht Aalst in Belgium. And later on, he went to Holland, to a Dutch team, AGOVV. And then when he was, because he's a high potential according to us, he came back. And now you see he's playing in Napoli. He's one of our best strikers. In the picture next to it, you see Carrasco. Same. In the next picture, you're going to see him in one of the future teams. That's him. He's in one of the future teams. And he's playing at the moment, Yannick Carrasco is playing at Atletico Madrid. And he's also one of our late mature players.
Yes.
Excuse
me, Frans. When we look at the physics of the players at the team, they are all the same. When we looked before, the national teams, when I go a little bit back, when we look here, you see the big guy in the middle, and the other one beside him, you see there's a huge difference. So when we have the future teams, you see they are all the same, they are all late mature. Okay, Frans.
Okay, so we organized the future youth teams, but then how are we going to detect talent? Who is a talented player and who isn't? Remember Asafa Powell. Was he talented at that moment? Probably not, but he became more talented later on. So talent detection is important. Once again, back to the roots, back to the source. And in what way do we organize this to see as much or as many talents as possible? Well, we organize. Belgium is, perhaps that's important to know. Belgium is divided in provinces, and each province organizes detection days from the age of under 12. In Belgian football, we have got 4 levels. Level is elite. Those are the 24 professional teams in Belgium. Then we get interprovincial. teams. That's the next level. Then provincial teams. That's under interprovincial. And then we have got the recreative, the regional teams. Out of the level, because those are already the better players, interprovincial and provincial teams, we try to select, to detect the best players. Those players that are chosen, they are profiled by talent scouts. What are talent scouts? Talent scouts are people that look at the player and try to detect which competences that player has. Later on, I'm going to tell you something more about the 5 competences we think a youth player has to have. So creating top players also means, according to us, creating profiles. What kind of player do we want when it's a number 9? And this is the example of Romelu Lukaku, striker of Inter Milan. And what is his profile? Well, he's a target striker, according to us. That's what he has to be, or to be able to do. He has to be able to do a cut in. So that's the striker who is available in the back of the defender. And of course, because he's a central striker, efficiency is enormously important. He has to score goals, and that's what he does. So he has the profile of a number 9 we want to see. That's the way we are going to develop our youth players too. Another example is number 8 or number 10, Kevin De Bruyne. He's the midfielder of Manchester City, as you know. What is his profile? What do we expect from a number 8, number 10? So a subtle pass and a dribble, that's important for him. He must be available between the lines. And he must be able to score by infiltration with or without ball or a shot. So those are the profiles. So about the competences, what do we want a youth player to have? Important is, and those are all quotes of the famous Johan Cruyff once again, body and ball control is important. Football is, that's what he said, is not about juggling the ball 100 times. It's important that, first of all, according to us, you have control over your body. And then, second, you have ball control. That's always the same. That's why in a later phase, we are going to explain you why we make a choice for coordination and body control at a younger age. The competence of a player, body and ball control. A winning mindset is important. It's important, if you can't win, make sure not to lose. A winning mindset. Football is a game, is a competition game where you win or you lose. Try to win as much as possible. Then the game insights is important. That's the vista of that we took of the best of both worlds of the Dutch, of Holland team. You play football with your head. That's what Johan Cruyff said. Your legs are there to help you. So what do we do now? Decision making is important. We added to our football not only technical tactical, physical, and mental items, we also added cognitive skills. So cognitive skills are important for game insight. You must see what happens or anticipate what is going to happen. Then future, and it's important once again that you see future physical potential. The most important word is here future. Future, because otherwise we're going to select once again the high performers. It's about the future. And then we're going to see that the high potentials are there once again. The faster you play, the lesser your opponent has the ball. And then finally, the ability to learn. Football is a game of mistakes. Whoever makes the fewest mistakes is going to win. When you make a mistake, you have to learn out of it so that the next time you won't make the mistake again, according to us. Okay, then we had to make a program. In what way are we going to guide our players throughout this all? Well, they themselves are the most important part of our guides. We make a personal development plan on tactical, technical, physical, mental factors, items, and we screen the player. What is good? What is bad? What are the positive things? What are the working points? So we go into a conversation with the player and we want him to reflect on himself. Tell us what kind of player you are. We add our own feedback and then we come, after the conversation, we come to a personal action plan. So with each individual player of our national youth teams, we're going to have the talk, conversation, and then we're going to make an action plan. Action plan is in what way do you want to improve and how are you going to achieve it? And set yourself some targets. We're going to train him with individual exercise material. For example, when the passing is not good, we're going to try to improve with individual exercises his passing. But it's very important that we focus on the good things, make the good things better, and work hard on the other things. And when you make the individual better, we are convinced of it that then the team becomes better too. As our good friend once again said, quality without results is pointless, but results without quality is boring. So we want to give quality. Okay, so when we want to achieve all those things, we had to do other things according to us. And we rechanged our youth competition once again. As he told a few moments ago, we want the players to have as much as touches of the ball as possible. Because when you touch the ball as a football player, you can become better. When you can't touch the ball, you won't become better. So we changed our 5 versus 5 into a 2 versus 2 for the under 6. And as you see, we also added multi-move. What is multi-move? Well, a child of about 5 years old, under 6, is only 60 months old. 60 months old. It isn't a football player yet. And then, well, we made a new program called multi-move. A multi-move stands for 12 abilities to move, to crawl, to jump. It's important, and then I come back to the competences of the player, that he has body control. Well, when a child has to have, or a player has to have body control, this is teachable. We can teach it. Also, the pitch became smaller, of course, when we're playing 2 against 2, and more touches of the ball. Later on, we also added 3 versus 3 for the under 7. And there, from that age on, we also had multi-skills for foot. Skills where the ball is introduced. In multi-move, there may be a ball, but it's not necessary. It's no necessity. It's not necessary there, because we say, well, they have to be movers there. So then, from the age of under 8 till under 9, back again to 5 versus 5, and then 8 versus 8 from under 10 to under 13, and we play it for 4 years long, 8 versus 8. Okay, always important when we have a certain age, we look at them and we say they can play football on this kind of pitch, this kind of space. Always take in account the characteristics of a child. So we want to become world's number 1. Who doesn't? Well, in 2014, we lost against Argentina in the quarterfinals. The European Championship quarterfinals against Wales, a real shame. But then Mr. Martinez came. He came from, he correct me, West Brom.
He was former coach of Everton, and then he came to Belgium, and it was the best transfer ever.
Yes. So we went to Russia, and well, we gained the third place in with a bit of jealousy to the French. We lost 1-0 to the French in a game that we didn't have to lose. But now we're ready for the next. We played against Denmark, Finland, and Russia. Now we're ready for next title, let's say, let's hope, at the European Championship 2021, due to Corona. And we also have some new talents that are out of our youth teams, are knocking at the door.
And that's a very important issue, because now we are always talking about De Bruyne, Eden Hazard, Dries Mertens, and so on, because they are very popular. Everyone knows them, but our new talents who are coming up, and we will see in the next 5 to 10 years, it's very important to talk about them.
Yes, so we have Yuri Tielemans. At the moment, he's playing at Leicester City. Young player with a lot of potential. We have Dennis Praat, who went from Sampdoria last season to Leicester City too. We have a very talented boy, is Jarry Verscharen. He even skipped our national under 21 team and was immediately added to the Red Devil team. We also have Zinho van Heusden, played at Inter Milan and now is playing for Standard Liège in Belgium once again. Jeremy Doku, as you see the age, only just 18 and a very good one. And also one of my favorites is Charles de Ketelaere. Boy with a high potential. At his age has already has some Champions League games on his records. So those are the coming up, not stars, but young talent that is important to cherish. And then we're coming to, we would like to come to Qatar, and we would like to go home with, of course, with the cup. But it's still a long way to go. So the important things, most important things is from this webinar is, in fact, it's important to know that there are high performers and high potentials, and don't overlook, please, the high potentials. Make them play in the same teams, and don't organize games where you have a mixed high performers and high potentials with the youth. That's not the right way, according to us, to detect talent. Five competences. Those are equally important. Same as fun and formation. Football is a game. It must be played, and it must be fun. And equally, of course, the formation you form football players.